Good news, you can fix this device. Bad news, not as fast as you saw. So stay tuned for the rest of the video. This is the DJI Osmo Pocket 2, along with one of its most popular accessories, the Do-It-All handle. Our customer reported that the handle doesn't turn on or charge the device. Let's test it to be sure. Yes, as you can see, it's charging. Now, let's connect the handle and test it again. The handle isn't connected, it doesn't charge either. It seems that the handle is completely dead. Let's tear it down to find the problem. First, we open the front part with a spudger. Be careful not to insert the spudger too deeply to avoid damaging other components. It looks like this device has been opened before. That's a bit worrying. I hope I don't find a big mess inside. Alright, let's remove these conductive tapes and screws. Remove this shield to access to second board. If you don't want to mess up everything with the thermal paste and have to reapply it later, try not to touch it. There are 3 antenna cables and a flat cable. Remove them carefully. Move the antenna cables away from the board to avoid damaging them when removing it. Now take out the first board. DJI loves this blue thermal paste. You can find it in all of their products. Remove the second shield too. Underneath, there are 3 screws to remove. These screws are shorter than the ones we removed earlier. Oops, I was about to forget to disconnect these two flat cables. Now you can lift the board. A speaker cable is connected to the other side of the board. Disconnect the cable carefully. As you can see, we've opened all the boards. For troubleshooting, let's inject voltage using a power supply and check the current draw of the second board. Remove the shield can before injecting voltage to check if any of the components underneath it get hot. We have a short circuit. The USB-C connector is getting so hot, it almost burned my finger. That's a bit unusual. It seems the USB-C connector might be causing the short circuit. Now let's check it with a multimeter. As you can see, there are 4 V-bus pins in USB-C. Put the multimeter in buzzer mode and check the connection between the ground and one of these pins. Using a needle probe helps you avoid touching the connector body. There's a short circuit between V-bus and the ground. And now I'm almost certain the connector is causing it. So let's replace the connector and see if that solves the problem. Connectors are sensitive to heat. Tape Captain around the board to protect them. At the first, preheat the board, then add flux. Now, heat the board with hot air and gently push out the connector with tweezers. If you're finding this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more tech tips and tutorials. After removing the connector, it's better to resolder the pads. To do this, add flux and apply a little solder to the tip of the soldering iron. Then solder all the pads. Adding enough flux is the key to having a clean solder. There are also 4 through-hole pads that need to be desoldered. Use a desoldering pump for this. If the solder on the pads isn't melting, increase your soldering iron temperature. Now it's time to place the new connector. First, solder the 4 through-hole pads to keep the connector in place when you use the hot air station to solder the surface mount pads. Don't forget to add flux before soldering these 4 pads. You won't have access to the SMD pins afterward. Press the connector to ensure the SMD pins contact the pads. Add some flux if needed. Just like DJI loves their blue thermal paste, I love using flux. Avoid using too much solder as it can cause bridging between connections. Before heating the board with hot air, tape Captain on the board. And hopefully, this is the last time I have to say, add flux. Flip the board and heat it from the bottom to make certain the connector doesn't fall when heated. Slightly press the connector with tweezers to ensure the pins make contact. Connector has been successfully soldered. Let's assemble the handle. Reinstall the shield can, reconnect the speaker, and place the board back in. Don't forget to reconnect the flat cables. When reassembling the device, if a part seems to need excessive force to fit, it likely isn't seated correctly or one of the cables might be obstructing it. Tighten the 3 screws. The shorter screws go here. Now place this metal part and don't forget to pass the antenna cables and the flat cable through it. Go for the second board. Place it carefully and reconnect the antennas and flat cables. Place the final metal part and tighten the 4 longer screws. Carefully reapply the antenna tape so the next person who opens up the handle won't realize it had been opened before. We're almost done. Put the final part in its position. Let's test the device to see if our solution works. We made it! The handle is connected and the device is now charging through it. That's a wrap for today. If you have any questions or need further assistance, drop a comment below. See you in the next video!